social life it actually fulfills, you know, because you're on set, you're constantly, even in pre-production, you're constantly speaking with people in big groups, you're working with these huge teams, and now that work has completely stopped, I'm definitely feeling that withdrawal. So hi everybody, I miss you. Can't wait till we get started again. I'm a cinematographer. I'm based here in Los Angeles, California. I also work as a local in New York. And I went through the AFI program for cinematography. I came out in 2015. After that, I did some teaching for the first 2 years out of school, just so I could have a steady income. I taught at LA Film School, and then I taught at AFI, my alma mater. And then after that, my freelancing really started picking up. And I still do a workshop now and then at AFI. I really love it up there. And besides that, I'm just freelancing, mostly commercial. I started working with an agency last year, Near Motion, and that has really allowed me to, especially with my commercial work, take everything to the next level, get considered for new types of projects that I never would have been considered before. And one of those projects is what we're talking about today, the Nike Marathon, which we shot in December and has been rolling out over the last month. Yay. So.
Great. And it's interesting, I mean, that this, you know, the marathon video that you didn't really happen. But yeah. So you really have a piece there to hold forever as part of the history, right?
Yeah. Yeah, of course, the marathon got canceled because of everything going on. And it was supposed to actually be happening, I think, next week in April. So yes, we have these pieces that live on. We did one sort of 30-second master cut that we can show you guys, or we can at least try to show you if the connection's working. It's also up on Cooke, shot on Cooke, part of the Cooke website now. And of course, it's on my website, and I think it's on my agent's website, Near Motion. So it's definitely available to view if this live stream doesn't play very well. They also cut a bunch of individual spots, because the concept of this piece is meeting 8 different women from around different communities in Los Angeles. So they are living all over LA County in different areas. All women who were training for the marathon at the time in December when we shot it. And so yeah, we did a 30-second master cut with all of the subjects combined. And then we also did individual profiles for each of the women to kind of showcase, you know, more in depth about their story and who they are and what running and training means to them in their lives.
Awesome. So we're gonna get to your video in a moment, Marianne. I just want to give I'm going to pass on the microphone to Eric. Eric, you want to say hi and talk a little bit?
Hi, everyone. I'm Eric Johnston, and I handle sales for Cooke Americas. And I'm here just to support Bianca and Mariana. Both of them are very integral to the Los Angeles and the film world in general. Bianca has a lovely rental house called BECiNE, and Mariana is the DP who shot this great commercial. And of course, they shot it on Cooke lenses, which is why I'm here. So if there's anything I can do to help, I'm more of just a fly on the wall in this presentation, but please raise your hand or type a question. We'd be happy to answer for you.
Great. So with no further ado, we're gonna try and play the video. We tested it yesterday and it played okay. And so hopefully you will be able to have the same experience. If not, we might be able to just share some stills just so you all have an idea how the piece that we're talking about looks like. So Marianne's gonna be sharing her screen and sharing the project. So this cut, how long is it, Marianne?
30 seconds.
Great, perfect. So let's try that.
Yeah. Okay.
My name is Jacqueline. My name is Cass. I'm Marissa. And I live in Wall Heights. I'm from Hollywood. And I live in Westchester, downtown LA. My reason to run is challenging myself. To say that I could do it. To create silence in my mind. To remind myself that I still got it. My reason to run is my sanity. Mental clarity. To prove to myself that I can actually do this. To honor my community, my ancestors. To be confident and free. It's important to me to make it to the starting line. The starting line on April 5th. On April 5th. Because it's me taking the first step. I want to prove everyone wrong. I want young women to believe that their bodies are capable of so much more than how they look. I want to be that for my community and for young girls that look like me. LA 13.1. LA 13.1. LA 13.1. 13.1.
Yay.
Great. So how do I do this again? I'm doing my end screen. Stop participant share. Great. Okay. Thank you, Marianne. First thing that I thought is how fun must it have been to shoot this? Just working with so many different women and so many, you know, different colors and kind of this dance between you and these people. Like it just looks so fun overall.
Yeah, it was really fun. It was we shot it over 2 days at the Nike Icon Studio in Culver City. This was a really low budget project. It was produced by Another, which is a production company outside of Nike, but we didn't have a big budget for resources. So we really pulled in as many creative resources as we could get. And of course, Bianca, as you know, working with BECiNE and being able to come to you and say, okay, we have this limited budget for camera equipment, you know, can you help us? And you always helping us really makes such a difference in my working practice. And honestly, I can't thank you enough for that kind of support. Plus, you're right down the street from Nike Icon, so that's just like beyond convenient. But yeah, so of course, called Bianca with my limited budget. We called KinoFlow through my gaffer, Andrea Sachs, who's just an amazing, another life-changing collaborator for me. Andrea is just incredible, and she's an ambassador with KinoFlow. So we called KinoFlow, and they sponsored us with all of the colorful lighting that we needed for that setup. You can probably tell from the spot, the concept was to generate as much variety of imagery as we could in the limited time that we had with each subject. And there was also a photo shoot going on. Some of the photos are in the various video cuts. The photographer's name, Hana Asanto. It was also just amazing to work with. So we had a really, really, really tight, great female-led team on this project. And we just set up, you know, essentially 3 setups. One of them was the white light, the studio lighting with the sort of fabric backgrounds. The second one was our colorful lighting setup with all our beautiful KinoFlow lights. And the third was our Steadicam. You know, it's meant to look like a location, but it's really, in reality, just around the Nike Icon building and in their parking lot, and, you know, really trying to diversify that location as much as we could. So yeah, we had about an hour with each subject to do a 30-minute interview and then shoot all this variety, as much variety of portraiture that we could for each person. So yeah, it was fun. It was crazy. There was like a lot of hugs. A lot of the, you know, women were, it was a mix of like nervous and excited because they're not used to being on camera, and just really, yeah, a great vibe, and really a pleasure to be involved with everybody. I should say too, Annie Nguyen, who was the creative director at Another, who really like spearheaded this project and conceptualized it. She was the one who did most of the work with Nike, figuring out exactly the approach. And then I was technically the director, like on set I was directing, but it was definitely a collaborative effort between myself and Annie to get this done. So.
I think, Eric, you had a question. to Marianne?
Well, I was just going to ask, was there any specific work that you drew inspiration from, Marianne, when you were thinking about the genesis of this project?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going in, what I knew the most was that we, you know, the information I had going in was that we wanted a large variety, at least 3 different looks with each subject, almost no time, not a lot of budget, and, you know, that we were looking to create something in the Nike world, you know, the way that they show their subjects is always very empowering. It's often, you know, using contrast colors, and they did give us specific colors, you know, that we were meant to work into the imagery. And then, you know, elevating the look as much as possible to be both clean and cinematic and beautiful, but also have some character and be expressive to each of the women and their personalities.
I think you absolutely accomplished that. I mean, the piece looks fabulous. And I must ask, I mean, I know that you chose Cooke lenses for this. I'm sure the audience can guess that you probably chose Cooke lenses for this. And I just wanted to ask, why was that? And specifically, why did you choose this series of lenses that you did?
Yeah, the Cooke Panchros, the eye classics, our lens set, a type of lens that I got really pretty much addicted to last year. Last year was my
These were not the rehoused. These were the new Panchro classics from Cooke.
Yeah, and I think that's something we could even talk about a little today, because it's such an interesting distinction between the rehoused Panchros and the classic Panchros. Eric, you're definitely the one to break down the difference between those 2 sets. But yeah, I mean, the Panchro Eyes classics, which are the reissued ones, the newly manufactured Panchros, have really become my go-to when I'm, you know, doing expressive portraiture, which is a huge part of my job. It's something I do all the time. If I'm shooting editorial or doc work, I also love them. And I love them in the studio. I mean, I have shot, I don't know, at least 10 projects with them in the last year. And I'm just kind of hooked on the look of the Panchros, and also they're just incredibly easy to use. You know, they're not heavy, they're not large, they're quite compact and lightweight, so they're wonderful for handheld, they're wonderful for Steadicam. I know Badra, who was my Steadicam operator, Badra Hydra, on this project, also absolutely loves them. I mean, honestly, I don't know a
Do you
detail.
know which focal lengths she flew?
He flew, well, we were mostly on the 25, the 32, the 40, those 3. I think those are the ones I usually go to. We also shot some with the 18 on this, and some longer lens stuff, 75, for the Nike spot. But yeah, I do tend to fall into that 25, 32, 40 range with the Panchros, specifically because of this look that you get when you're at a very close focal length. So when you're close to the subject, when you're at a close focus and you're quite wide open on the lens, this sort of magical thing happens where the sides of, especially with the 25, kind of fall off into this like magical looking territory. It's a little hard to describe with words, at least for me. But you get this beautiful distortion. I hate to use the word distortion because that sounds like a negative thing. You get this beautiful quality towards the edges of the lenses that, especially I find with faces, really, you know, because you can still get quite a sharp focus on the details of the face. So it really helps to pull the attention into the face and then create this sort of dreamy fall off on the sides of the edges, and that little bit of distortion.
I didn't know better. I think you were describing the Cooke look.
Well, I'm glad it lines up with.
No, well, we're glad that it worked for your project. You know, what we're all here to do is tell a story, and it's about choosing the correct tools to best tell that story. And I think that these lenses certainly helped communicate that in your project. So.
Mm-hmm. Even because when I first started using Panchros, I was using the rehoused TLS. Mm-hmm. TLS is a company that rehouses old lenses for you if you want. And the first couple of times I used them, and I also loved them then, but there's a lot of technical problems with those lenses. Every set is different, so you don't really know what you're getting until you get it, if you have a chance to test it. A lot of times we don't have a chance to test it. So when you're working with a rehouse set, it's a bit of an adventure, but you still get, you know, beautiful results. You just might have one lens in the set that has a really intense color shift, or you know, like you mentioned yesterday, the wider sets, they won't even completely cover a full 35 sensor, so you really can't even use the 18, and using the 25 is even a little bit intense with the vignetting. So yeah, the rehouse Panchro is also beautiful, but you know, technically not as easy to use, not as reliable as the S Classics. And so, yeah, the first time I got to use the S Classics, and that's the reissued Cooke Panchros, was with Bianca. Yeah, was with Bianca, because she has them in-house at BECiNE. So she got me started on them, and then I just got hooked. So
We have to try. We just got, Marianne, the 65 macro. This one that Eric has there. But I haven't tried it yet because it just arrived not so long ago.
Ooh, I love a macro.
When things are back.
Yeah, yeah, something to look forward to, getting to shoot with the 65 macro.
We just introduced 3 new macro lenses, but that's a story for another talk.
Oh no, what are they? Just tell us really quick. I'm curious.
60 and a 90 and a 150 for the S7s. The true full frame 1-to-1 macro lenses.
So cool with the S7.
If we were all at NAB, I would be doing this live.
Virtual NAB we're going to be doing here.
We're going to be introducing those soon. I might have let the cat out of the bag.
A little sneak peek for everybody who tuned in today. I love it.
Yeah, just a small add-on, like just from a rental house standpoint, having the Panchro iClassics, you know, they are easier to maintain. Like, to me, like, I started the rental house maybe 2 years ago, and, you know, it seemed scary to invest in like older lenses because I wasn't sure how, you know, I knew they required more maintenance. So the Panchro iClassics have been great also in that, you know, in that aspect of having lower maintenance. And it's really fun that we have 12 focal lengths now. Even the 21 and the 27, I think you also didn't try yet, Marianne, because those are new.
Nice.
So now we have 12 focal lengths of the Panchro iClassics.
Is that the whole set?
Is that a whole set, Eric?
Yes.
Oh, 12, yeah. So yeah, we have the whole set. And
Yeah.
what,
I love them.
Yeah. What would you, I mean, that's a hard question, Marianne, but I know like the size and like what's the characteristic that's most important for you on this lens?
The look. I mean, absolutely the look. The size and the f-stop, you know, they open up to a 2.0, but the look of the image is the most important thing for me when I'm choosing equipment. Like even when we were chatting the other day, Bianca, you were like, oh yeah, and they're really affordable. That's a +2. And I was like, yeah, I have no idea. Because
I mean, compared to some of the cinema lenses, they're more affordable, you know.
Yeah, which is also a huge plus. I mean, especially I see there's a question from Eric about budget. Always budget minded, even on really well budgeted commercials and shows. It's still a factor, you know, where and how you choose to spend the money that is allocated to your department. So but yeah, no, just absolutely the look. And then if I'm working with a Steadicam op, then I do, you know, or if I know I have a lot of handheld shoulder mount stuff, then the weight I also do think about, you know, technical stuff like that. But really just the look. I mean, I just love the look of these lenses, and I like that you can go from something, you know, very technically clean and perfect to something full of character by just adjusting, you know, the aperture essentially. I do a lot of filter stacking also, and I find that the Panchros, because they have that sort of built-in quality in the look, especially like I was saying on the wider sides when you're, you know, quite wide open, I find that the filter stacking and putting stuff in front of the lens and all the kind of, you know, stuff we do, our little cinematography tricks to make an image compelling, I find the Panchros really take the look, and it just adds to the magic, you know. So when you start with a base look that, like, say a Panchro will give you, and then you stack your tricks on top of it, it just gets more and more beautiful as you go. So that's fun.
Cool.
Vittorio Storaro, one of the most famous cinematographers on the planet, actually referred to the Panchro Classics, the original Panchro Classics, as the first truly built cinematic lens. And he, to this day, is a fan. And one of the very first new Panchro Classics was put in his hand, in fact. So he's also a big supporter of this series.
I love that. He's such a legend. His color theory work is some of my, like, guiding influence. I'm really into color theory, both emotive color theory like that and technical.
He's certainly someone to discuss that with.
Oh my God, so maybe someday. Wouldn't that be wonderful? There's a webinar for you.
Yeah, maybe we can get him on one. You never know.
Oh God, that'd be amazing. Yeah, I mean, I know so many DPs who love these lenses. They're crowd-pleasing lenses, as are all the Cooke lenses. I mean, it's not just the Panchros, but happy to talk about the Panchros today because I am so obsessed with them.
So before we open up for our attendees' questions, I have a little question for Eric. How, you know, so the Panchros have been a classic for a long time. How and when did Cooke decide to make these new Panchros?
Well, it was 3 years ago, and we actually introduced two sets at that time. We introduced the new Panchro Classics, and we introduced the S7s. So there was two things going on in the industry. One was the desire for vintage-looking lenses, which the Panchros filled, and the other was the desire for full-frame lenses, which the S7s fulfilled. And they've kind of been going neck and neck. Full frame has dominated the conversation as of late, but I would imagine once the new ARRI 4K, Super 35 4K camera is introduced, the pendulum may swing back to the other side and the conversation may go more towards Super 35 rather than full frame. But the idea behind the Panchro Classic specifically was to offer a new purpose-built vintage look lens. So there were three major problems with the rehoused lenses. As Mariana mentioned, some of the wider lenses didn't cover Super 35. They were not color matched. I mean, there were 40 or 50 years of time that those lenses have been sitting since they were actually manufactured. There might have been 20 years between manufacture of two of the lenses in the set. So, you know, there was a huge variance in the color. And the other part is Bianca touched upon. The service was a nightmare for these lenses. You had to have donor lenses to take parts of to keep your fleet up and running. And, you know, heaven forbid anything actually happened to the lens because it would wipe the whole set out. And so now you have a brand new purpose-built cinematic lens that very closely replicates that original look that covers Super 35. They're all color matched. They all have the Cooke look. They'll intercut with any of the modern Cooke lenses, and you can get spare parts and the service that you need. So we're just giving the creatives what they want, and they're using them to create their vision. So I think everybody's pretty happy.
Yeah, I'm so happy that I have them. So thank you, Cooke.
We're so happy that BECiNE has them.
Yeah. Bianca, how do you choose a lens set to invest in? I mean, as a rental house owner, not that I'm supposed to be asking the question.
That's a great question.
I mean, how do you choose? There's so many options.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, you know, when I entered the business, it was that moment where full frame was starting. So it was kind of weird because, you know, suddenly there are many new lenses to choose from. And you know, I've always loved Cooke since I went to Chapman in the cinematography program. And so I always have been a Cooke fan. So to me, it was right that I was going to invest in them, but I also was able to go visit the factory and understand, you know, how they work and meet everyone from Cooke, the Cooke family. And all this, I think for me, it's important, you know, when you're putting a lot of money into equipment, you know, it's important. Who does it come from? And you know, the Cooke look, I love it. I think everyone loves it. So I ended up choosing the Panchros because I needed an option that was vintage. You know, at that time I had the 7s, I had, you know, some Zooms, not Cooke, but I needed the vintage set. And I was like, well, I don't really want to buy older lenses because when we started, like, there was no lens technician working with us, and I wanted something vintage that was easier to maintain, that wouldn't give me trouble in the first 2 years. And I went with the Cooke Panchros. And I think,
Great choice.
yeah. The first Cookes were the SFs that I chose. Thanks to Carrie Duffy. Are you still here, Carrie Duffy? Carrie's the Europe sales. We were in London together, and he was like, you have to see this new lens, the Cooke SF. But then with time, I realized that people really wanted vintage lenses as well. And I'm super happy with my decision, especially now with the newer focal lengths. You know, with 12 lenses, you can really make up to even 3 sets at the same time, you know, because it happens, you know, it's like on a Wednesday, and then everyone starts calling, oh, they have the Panchros, they have the Panchros. Very popular.
And you're like, no, Marianne has them this weekend. I'm sorry.
You know, if I'm not mistaken, I believe those anamorphic SFs have been on some very high-profile feature films recently.
Yes, yes, the Cooke SFs, I guess we can say it, they were out on Star Trek, and they're all back now, people. So when everything is back, the Cooke SFs are back.
I can't wait to shoot with them.
Yeah, which we did, right? Marianne did one music video on the Cooke SFs that maybe you can share the link after.
Yeah, it's out there. We did. I got to shoot one music video on the Cooke Anamorphics, and yeah, definitely an adventure in itself. I mean, as someone who's really used to shooting spherical, popping on an anamorphic lens is not that simple to me. You know, it changes of course, the aspect ratio, and then how each focal length is rendering the space. It's quite different than spherical. So it's a like a heart racing adventure every time I shoot anamorphic. But I have a feature that's coming up sometime in the next couple of months we're hoping to shoot. So I'll probably, you know, I'll be trying to shoot that on anamorphic for sure when it does come around. Feathered friends, if you're out there, I can't wait. But yes. So.
All right, so I want to start giving, you know, the attendees a chance to have their answers. So let's see, we got here Rachel. Hi, Rachel Bickert. So Rachel would love to learn more about Marianne's journey after she graduated to where she is now. What was your big break?
Yeah, big break. I mean, honestly, I think my whole technique of my cinematography career has been, and this project we're talking about today is a great example of this. My whole theory is like, take every shoot and make the absolute most of it. Even if there's, you know, no budget, if, you know, there's no resources, you're the only person on the crew, whatever it is, you know, taking that and making it look like $1 million is just always the goal for me. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely gotten easier as the years have gone on, you know, better projects, better budgets, all the things that come along with, you know, climbing the ladder. But yeah, when I got out of AFI, I think the first break that I got was shooting Pamela Anderson for a clothing campaign, a company called Misguided. They're kind of like a Forever 21 or something from England. And their spring summer campaign that year, I think it was 2016, was with Pamela Anderson, with Pammy. And I didn't get paid. I had an equipment rental budget of $500 total. And we shot at this in essentially like a room, like kind of like a warehouse on the top floor of this building in downtown. So the way I divided up my $500 was I begged a friend who had a red, Derek Dublin, who had a Red camera, and we just used, you know, EF Canon lenses because that's all we could afford. For like $125. So I had one light and I had a Red. And yeah, we just pointed the light at Pamela Anderson and let her do the rest. And the campaign came out really well. A lot of people saw it. It was international. It went into subways, and you know, they something I've noticed with a lot of my projects is that they will buy a lot more advertising space once they're done, because I think sometimes they don't know how it's going to come out, how effective it's going to be. And I also have a lot of products like sell out after the campaign comes out, and you know, just things tend to do well. But anyhow, yeah, so this Pamela Anderson misguided thing, once that came out, I did start getting more random people hitting me up, asking me to shoot stuff in the fashion and also editorial space. And then right after that, I got what I consider my break, which was Girls Talk, a series for ID magazine. That was like a 3-part series, docu editorial, hosted by Adwoa Aboa, who's a huge supermodel from England, and also a community activist. Her organization's called Girls Talk. So it was a super feminist, super contemporary look at just women in society. I mean, I could go on for hours about that, but shooting that and shooting it for such a large platform like ID Magazine really got my work out to a bunch of new viewers who had, you know, never heard of me or seen anything like that before. So that was definitely like a really important project for me. Sorry, that was so long. Just rambling.
No, I think it really, you know, the point is, yeah, make the best of every job that you're at, because you're already there, you're already committing, you know, at least the 12 hours plus, you know, all the prep, all the posts. And
yeah, and don't let it get to you, like, you know, don't, especially if you're first starting out. This was advice I got from Stephen Lighthill at AFI, and I think he gives this advice to all of the fellows. When you're first starting out, take every chance you get to shoot and make it the actual best you can, you know. Don't turn things down because they don't pay. I mean, I also am very like pro-labor, and I think everyone should get compensated all the time. So there is a balance there, but you know, you have to look out for opportunities. And then once you accept the opportunity, you can't keep it in your mind like, oh, they're not even paying me for this, or oh, they're only paying me a couple $100. You just have to let that go, you know, and don't equate the work that you shoot with the dollar value that you're getting paid, because the dollars will come later, you know, which is, I didn't know that when I was starting out. I didn't actually know that cinematography was.
froze.
Yeah, she's frozen, actually.
I had no idea. Yeah.
Could you repeat that? You said, I didn't know this cinematography was, and you froze.
Oh, sorry. That it can be a very lucrative career. You know, I didn't know that you can make a good adult living doing this job. I really got into it because I wanted to tell stories. I wanted to shoot films, and I love the collaborative nature of being on set with a lot of people. Yeah. So the making money part definitely came later these last couple of years. And I think, you know, when you're starting out, it's so important not to choose projects because of the money.
Oh, frozen again.
Yeah. With it. Oh, shoot.
You're okay. We got you back.
Okay.
You're back.
You said it's important to choose projects not because of the money, but for
what the content is, the story you can tell, and what you think you can do with it. You know, I think too.
That's
like,
great advice.
Yeah, like doing like, it can also be demoralizing to take jobs that are low paying, that don't have good creative. So I'm definitely not recommending like just going out and shooting like actors show reels for free or something. Like, I think that can be very exhausting for people. And if there's no creative payback, then, you know, it's like, if it doesn't come out well, I think especially when you're starting out, you can look at a project and be like, oh, I'm a terrible DP. This is so cheesy. I hate how this looks, whatever. But so much of that is out of your control as a cinematographer. You know, we're just a deeply collaborative job, and it's all about interpreting the creative in a way that you feel you can stand by it, you know, that you can make something cool, even if there isn't a lot of money behind a project. So
yeah, and I think collaboration is what moves most of the people that are in this industry. And we have some very interesting collaboration questions here. So I want to go with this one from Catherine White. Hi, Catherine. I believe Catherine also has shot with the Cooke Panchros. She is interested in knowing, so let's see, I'm gonna read this so I don't miss anything. So she's interested in knowing about your experience working with creative directors, either on this Nike shoot or in general. She's interested in knowing, how do you preserve your artistic vision as a director or DP while also answering the vision of the creative director? Because Catherine feels like sometimes these visions can conflict, and she's interested in knowing, you know, your experience and.
Yeah, that's interesting. I have almost never had a conflict with that, and I think that is part of my personal temperament. You know, my personality is it's just, for me, it's exciting. It's like a puzzle. Each project is like a puzzle. So you get these pieces and you have to interpret them and find the way that they go together. So the creative director, the agency, the client, you know, everybody has a lot of input. The director usually, because like I said, I usually don't direct, I'm a DP. So, you know, everybody has a vision, and it's really, to me, it's really not my place to be like putting my vision into, especially into pre-production. It's all about understanding the project, the point of the project, what we're doing and why, and then developing an approach that's going to work for that. So it's creative, but it's also a lot of technical work, and it's also about assembling the right team, because also personalities and temperaments need to all go together on the set so that you can make something great and feel good while you're doing it, you know? I'm all about that. I'm all about work not being fun, but you know, I work with a really tight crew with Andrea and Carla and Tim, and we come together all the time to do these projects. So we have a real language on my team of how things can work efficiently and creatively. And then, yeah, with the creative directors, I just listen really well. I always incorporate everybody's feedback in one way or the other. I present ideas in a very open-ended way that I really try not to take ownership over ideas. It's more like making suggestions and seeing what sticks, and letting, you know, the hive mind evolve on those suggestions. And yeah, usually I just put an image up that I think is the right thing, and then, you know, people are excited, and then we shoot it. So yeah, I have good collaborations. It's one of my favorite parts of the job.
Awesome. There's an interesting question here too from Chris from the East Coast. Hi, Chris. How do you discuss your lens choices with the directors you work with? Which is kind of on that same line, but more, you know, more about the focal lengths. Like, does it normally come from the director, or does it come from you?
Completely depends. Some directors have a great facility with lenses. Maybe they've done a fair amount of photography, or have shot some stuff themselves. I mean, I think to really be able to call a lens, you need a certain amount of hours of experience of photography or shooting film and video, just so you have that sort of mental comfortability. I mean, people use Artemis and they use directors' viewfinders. I don't really use those tools because I've been just shooting for so long, and the 35 millimeter, you know, the Super 35 sensor, I'm just so acquainted with that. That it's easy for me to visualize what lens is going to cover a certain image, you know, and give the look that you want. But, you know, a lot of directors don't have that because they haven't been, using a camera and lens for 20 years or whatever. So it totally depends. If a director calls a lens, I throw it on, you know, no hesitation. I'm always happy to see, you know, what that's looking like, and then we can always tweak it out from there. Some directors, they don't even want to have that conversation, and that works great for me too.
In a way that they're trusting you to make the decision, and they're just mainly working with the actors. And
exactly. And they might say, I want to see this and this, or, you know, the shot is a close-up of the mouth or some, you know, it's, of course we still talk about the content of the shot, just not every director is calling a specific lens, or a specific focal length. And then in pre-production, of course, you know, if you have a chance, if you have, say, like a longer term narrative project, doing a test with the director in advance is a great way to just see some different sets of lenses, like say even the difference between the S4s and the S7s, and the Cooke Panchros, the visual differences between those. I mean, we've tried our best today to verbalize what that is, but of course the easiest way is to show people and to go through different lens sets together. So lens testing in pre-production can be a great way to do that.
Marianne, you mentioned Artemis. I'm sure there's a number of people that don't know what that is. You would maybe just mention what it is, but my question specifically is, has that become a pre-visualization tool on set for lens choice?
Oh yeah, I see people on set, and certain directors love Artemis, and they love to use it on set. And it's like, for me, it's just like, I think I'm just like too old for that. Like, I can't like use a phone to frame up a
I agree with you. I come from a different era, and we did not, I mean, we use director's finders.
And director's finders are a joy. They're wonderful. I actually want to start using them more. It's not part of my practice as of now. But Artemis is an app, just if people are out there that don't know, it's an app. I think it's around $30, and it just allows you to dial in exactly what kind of sensor you're using and the focal lengths of your lenses, if you're anamorphic, spherical, and then, you know, your phone will just show you essentially the frame lines. So it's useful for just, say you're having a hard time communicating with your director, which has certainly happened to me, and you're getting to the point where you're like, okay, we need to just be very specific and define this in advance to make sure we're both happy and we're getting exactly what you want and you need. You could say use Artemis or a director's viewfinder to show them exactly the frame, determine exactly what you want, and then set up the camera. Of course, it's very time consuming if if you agree on something, you set it up, and then the director doesn't like it and they want to try something else. It's fine, it's great, but it does take time out of the actual shooting, and then the setup time for the next setup. You know, it sounds, 12 hours sounds like a lot to people who don't work in film, but to us, 12 hours goes
Short day.
So it's a short day, exactly. And you know, oftentimes we go 14 or 16 hours, and even that goes so fast because the way time works on set is different. So everything is, time dollars are a real thing on set, and everything, you've got to balance that. Every choice is also about time and efficiency as well as creative. So
Thank you.
So let's see a few more questions here that we have. Douglas is asking if the video will be available online.
Yeah,
absolutely, right? We can share. We can share in the BECiNE Facebook page, Douglas, or if you have any other ideas where
it's also up on Shot on Cooke now.
Great, perfect. That's even better. It's up on Shot on Cooke, which I'm typing for you the answer here, Douglas. ShotOnCooke.com, which is a great website that you can research projects that were shot with any type of Cooke lenses. So you can type S4s, and then all projects that shot with S4s are gonna show up. So it's great to see what people have been doing with different lenses. Interesting question here from the DP Sayombu. He's saying that Call Me By Your Name exclusively shot on the Cooke S4 35mm. And he's asking if either of us has have chosen a singular lens for an entire project. Have you ever done that, Marianne? Like just work with one focal length?
I would only do that if it was like some dogma stuff. Like if the director really wanted to do that, I would do it. It's a fun challenge. And I think limiting yourself to one or a few lenses can give a very coherent, beautiful look to a project. You know, of course, cutting and editing is such a big part of cinematography, and how shots work together is truly an alchemical process. You know, getting an edit right. Wow, it's definitely an own art in itself. But yeah, I like my tools. I like to use. I mean, Bianca, you know, I love long lenses. I love super long lenses. So whenever I can, I'm shooting really, really long lens. And then also, as I've been saying all day, these wide angle portraits are also just so juicy for me. So it's hard to imagine wanting to do that.
Yeah.
But it's a fun challenge. And can be good. I mean, Call Me By Your Name, masterpiece. So.
Yeah. I once shot a music video on a 50 back in Brazil, but it was more of like, the director was like, hey, I have this one lens. You want to do a music video? And I'm like, sure. We even put it on a little frame.
I love that.
As a screenshot on a 50, but.
I had a producer once that purchased one lens from me because that's all they could afford. So they shot their entire feature film on that one lens, which was a budgetary concern. But I suggested perhaps they use that money to rent a full set of lenses.
Come on now. So which one was it? Do you remember? I mean, what a precious choice. Was it like the 20?
It was a 35 millimeter.
35, yeah. Yeah.
And then it ended up on eBay after the shoot.
Of course. That's low budget filmmaking at its finest. Yeah. I mean, fortunately, I mean, again, not to hark on how wonderful, Bianca, your rental house and your support has been for me, but you know, that's where having a connection to a rental house, having a positive relationship with your vendors, as when you're coming up as a DP and when you're established as a DP at any stage of career, it's so important to have people that care about you and care about your work and will support you, because without those people, you're doing crazy stuff like that. So yeah.
A little technical question here. So Max is interested in knowing, what do you use for exposure? If you use false color, waveform, or light meter, or if you do a bit of everything, like what has been, you know, your method?
Yeah, I just use a light meter. I don't use false color. I don't know how to read that. I have like some kind of weird learning disability where like it's literally meaningless to me. I just use a light meter. I use incident and spot depending on what I'm looking at. You know, we have a little way of calibrating our system with the waveform, the light meter to the camera. I like to do that at the beginning of every shoot. And you guys can probably tell even just from the Nike video, but if you look at my website, I do a lot of beauty, and in beauty and makeup commercials, the exposure of the skin and the face is obviously just so important. I do like to expose half a stop over. I used to do a full stop over, and then, you know, the concept is you shoot one stop over and it's pulled down in post, but I had so many post experiences where they didn't pull it down and it was never like properly corrected that I have pretty much stopped doing that. So yeah, I have my exposure techniques, but yeah, absolutely just a light meter. That's the jam. Get you a Seconic, you know, combo incident and spot meter, and just start using it around your house even to practice. You don't even have to be shooting. You can just start metering things in your house and taking notes, and it will eventually click for you. It not saying whoever asked that question doesn't know how to use a light meter, just saying if you don't use one, just get one and start practicing.
Yeah, I agree that you can never go wrong with a light meter. I also haven't being into the false color party.
You don't understand how it works, and every camera has its own color scheme too. So it's like I just like look at it and then I can't see. I don't like that. I don't like that.
Yeah. So let's see. Achu here. He's wondering, I don't know if he's a he or she, sorry. Lighting plan for the Nike ad. So do you, I know, so you mentioned you work with Andrea and she's an ambassador for Kino. So you got all these Kino lights. Was there a lighting plan, or it was more like a, you know, you get on the set and then you discuss? And
yeah, I'm pretty proud of what we did with the lighting for Nike. You know, we were limited to in-house equipment for our main setup, which was the studio look on the white fabric background. And we needed to create a lighting setup that would work both for my video interviews and also for Hannah's photos. So Hannah didn't use strobes on this project. She used our lighting, which meant that I needed to get the stop way up because, you know, photographers, especially in sports and action type stuff, really love to shoot with a deep stop. So I was aiming for like a 5.6 or an 8 for our main interview setup. And I think we used the M40, or was it M90? I think an M40 that they had in-house at Nike was our key. We put it through a big 12 by, I think we double broke it through a 12 by maybe it was an M90. And then used whatever they had. I think they had some sky panel and maybe a M18, and really, I mean, we cleaned them out. I was like, I will take everything, everything I can get. And we used pretty much all of it. And then, yeah, Kino came with their beautiful tubes. And for the colorful setup, I think we had Kino 850, I believe, which is a really big one. I think we had 2 of those, and we were using those to push the background color in. And then we were using the tubes to do the front colors. And we had like, I think like Andrea and our grip, it was only a 3-person G&E team that day because again, it was like super low budget. But we had Andrea and our grip like both holding the tubes and moving them with the subject and the Steadicam operator, Badra. So it was definitely like a dance where the colors are coming in and out and the camera's coming in and out, the subject is moving, everybody's moving together, and I'm there with my monitor like, yes, 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 turn to the left, turn to the right. You know, my directing is like not very sophisticated because like I said, I'm not a director. So I'm like, look to the left, look down, look up, okay, jump in the air. You know, just like anything I can think of trying to direct these non-actors, just making it fun, trying to have as much fun as possible with it. It was really fun. And then, yeah, the stuff we shot around the action stuff was mostly just ambient light with the Steadicam, although we brought tubes out for that also. So yeah, we had to build each setup totally separately, obviously, but we just had the one studio. So we built, you know, big solids to separate the different parts of the studio. And yeah, this workflow actually worked out. It was incredibly exhausting 2 days because the crew and I were just constantly running from one subject to the next, always shooting something, you know, which usually on set you get more breaks, but this one we were just...
Sorry, did you mention what camera you used?
Yeah, it's a mini. I almost always shoot with a mini, so yeah, gotta use the mini.
All right, everyone. I think, you know, we've been here for an hour, which is crazy. So fast. I want to leave the option because, you know, Marianne, now a lot of people want to know more about little details and they want to know your website. So if you can tell them about your website and maybe where they can reach you if they have, you know, any more questions.
Yeah.
More about you and your work.
Am I supposed to type that in or should I just say it? I mean, my website is just my name, Marianne-Williams.com. I work really hard to keep it updated. Of course, I also have a portfolio on my agent's site. That's nearmotion.com. They represent, I think there's 18 or 19 of us. They are an agency that just does cinematographers. and like DP directors also, but they focus on cinematography, and it's run by a cinematographer, Brent Mata, and a fabulous agent that's coming out of the modeling agency world, Chandra Feltis. So they're my representation team, and my side. And what else am I supposed to say? Oh yeah, my email is on my website. So actually, if anybody wants to talk about stuff, just email me. We can talk on the phone or video talk, or just email, whatever you want. I'm happy to. This has been very fun, as you can tell from my long run-on answers. I am having a great time with this. So
yeah, great. Someone was asking here, I forgot where I saw the question, but if they had to choose between putting the money on a camera or a lens, I'm gonna answer it's gonna be a lens, guys, because the lens is really, you know, yes, the cameras are the base, but the lens is really how you can get a specific look. And I just had a thought yesterday, which, you know, with the new normal, when things start becoming a bit the new normal, I believe the crews, you know, the first shoots that might happen are going to be smaller crews.
mm-hmm.
I wonder if even there's going to be some things without any lighting. So like the lenses are going to be even more important, because you're going to, I think, I mean, I don't know, who knows what's going to happen, but you know, if you can get a nice lens to be able to have a good look. Yes, lighting is super important, but I don't know, I just had a thought yesterday. Is that a crazy thought?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely shot the Panchros with just ambient or just a bounce board. Oh, I actually did a keynote with like a few more. I forgot about that. Maybe it's too late. I don't know how many people are still here. But I pulled out some more examples of stuff I shot with the Panchros, because I mean, that's an example of a lens set that can go just ambient light, full sun, indirect ambient, crazy colors, any skin tone, studio lighting. Like, you know, it's just a gorgeous lens that really performs so well under all kinds of conditions. But yeah, Bianca, I think you might be right, you know, and we'll see. We'll see how the industry returns after this crazy upset. Really hard to tell at this point. Should I share this thing I made, or should we just stop?
Honestly, it's up to you, but we could turn that into a separate conversation for another day,
Okay,
if you like.
that sounds
I'd be
great.
happy to
Yeah,
host.
let's keep the Cooke series going, guys. I like this.
Yeah, this has been really cool. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and then, you know, if we weren't able to answer your question, I'm sorry. It's been a lot of things, but you know, I feel like we can maybe do this weekly, and then we can all be connected to each other. And yeah, thanks everyone for being here. It was fun. I think we can say that we did it. Our first one.
We did it.
Thank you so much, Marianne, for your time and for sharing your knowledge and your experience. Thank you, Eric, with your lovely
Thank you, Bianca. Thank you, Marianne. Very much appreciated.
Thank you both. It was
great. It was great to see your work. It looks incredible.
Thank you so much, Eric. I really appreciate both of your support so much. And yeah, let's do this again.
Yeah, and shout out to everyone. Wow, Lauren Guiterres, I missed you. You haven't?
Hey, everybody. Yay. See, I can't see everyone who's in the room. Yay. Thank you so much for tuning in. That is just like so wonderful. I hope it wasn't tedious and boring.
This was awesome.
Yeah, and then if you guys have any, you know, ideas of things you want to learn about, please send us a message on the Instagram or Facebook, BECiNE. If there's anything you want to know, we're here to try and help everyone throughout this time. So let's be together while we are far away from each other.
Looking forward to shooting with everybody again.
Yes. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Bianca. Bye.